12-year-old Brianna Skerrick and her family were on vacation in Colombia to volunteer in an orphanage when her mother noticed 20 small bumps on her daughter's head. This concerned her, and immediately she cut the trip short. She initially thought that her daughter was infected by some poison, but her gut instinct told her that there was something much more sinister at play. During the flight back, the bumps started to burst open and ooze blood and a clear liquid. As if it wasn't alarming enough, they noticed that these bumps were alive and moving because they literally could hear it. Lo and behold, her darkest fears were confirmed when they arrived at the doctor's office, where they discovered 212 flesh-eating parasites inside Brianna's head. According to the professionals, it is likely that the girl contracted this brain-eating amoeba from the lake. These parasites typically reside in the warmer regions of the water. Although it is a rare occurrence, it could happen to anyone, especially those who are traveling to different countries and swimming in warm freshwater lakes, where the amoeba could actually make their way through the individual's nose and into their brain. Once it gets to that point, there isn't much even the professionals can do. Thankfully, Brianna survived this very rare infection, which actually has a specific name and intricate methodology, which will be discussed further in depth. Although this little girl luckily made it out alive, there are many more cases where victims lose the battle rather than win it. Such a case resulted in a fatal outcome involving the same monstrous brain-eating amoeba. In this particular circumstance, the child was also around Brianna's age. Based in South Carolina, Hannah Collins was pronounced dead, specifically after 12 days of having the infection. Now, the specific infection is scientifically known as Naegleria fowleri, or N. fowleri for short, and it is a single-celled organism that can be contracted while individuals are swimming, water skiing, and diving. It is capable of infecting the host through physical means. When water is splashed into the nose cavity, the organism attaches to the nasal mucosa and moves along the olfactory nerve and cerebriform plates. Although adults are not immune to this parasite, children are more susceptible because their cerebriform plate is more porous. After going through this plate, it finally makes its way into the olfactory bulbs located in the central nervous system. The structure of this parasite allows it to feast on the human tissue whilst being dependent on releasing cytolytic molecules used to destroy cells and nerves. As a result of the severe nerve and tissue damage, manifestations of this parasite are nearly always devastating and fatal. The symptoms eerily do not usually appear immediately. It would actually take between 2 to 8 days, or at least 24 hours, for common symptoms to present themselves in the form of headaches, chills, fevers, seizures, and even coma. Perhaps the most pertinent sign that signifies fatal outcomes is the cerebral spinal fluid pressure within the brain itself. Significant increases in this pressure are presented in brain MRI scans, which show drastic abnormalities in the midbrain and subarachnoid region. In the heartbreaking case of Hannah, N. fowleri was thought to have been present in the Edisto River, where she was seen jumping into repeatedly, according to her father, Jeff Collins. She was immediately sent to the hospital after exhibiting symptoms, and during her stay, her chances of survival continued to look slim. To put into perspective, a whopping 97% of people who become infected by this amoeba do not survive. The family was documenting this depressing case, noting that the pressure in the brain had not subsided and was actually increasing. They had also called for support, describing N. fowleri as the evil amoeba. The infection was not just spiraling out of control, it was becoming a situation that even the professionals could not tackle. A courier drove 6 hours through the night to deliver recommended medications, but at that point, time had taken its toll. Every second mattered. And certainly, the amoeba was evil, because on the 12th day, Hannah Collins passed away. During this tragic finding, her father was actually arrested for not paying child support. And although he was not present in much of her last days in the hospital, he was finally able to visit her one last time, where he spent 90 minutes with her until she passed away, laying next to him. Upon her death, he was released from jail, but the despair he was left with was infinite after having lost his child. Perhaps the most shocking and scariest part about N. fowleri is that To date, there are only 7 known survival cases in the whole world. All of these survivors share similar circumstances. For one, they were young children. Additionally, they contracted this parasite by swimming in freshwater bodies, such as ponds, rivers, and lakes. All treatments involve amphotericin B, milfetine, and adjunctive therapies. While these single-celled monsters are mostly present in freshwater environments, a case in 2021 shocked the nation when a public city splash pad was the cause of killing a 3-year-old child in North Texas. He was taken to the hospital on September 5 and passed away 6 days later. An investigation was launched, and officials pinpointed that the likely cause was the exposure of the amoeba. They believed that it was either the child's own home or the city's water park, which was immediately shut down and tested. It was soon confirmed that Enfilloria was present in the samples taken from the public water park. Upon this discovery, a lot of controversy and criticism arose, with public water parks being placed under more pressure in inspection. Shockingly, records disclosed that employees did not do their own due diligence when it came to testing for parasites. The documentation displayed major discrepancies, the absence of consistent tests, and the quality of water. Additionally, the inspection logs were inadequate because they lacked pertinent information such as how much disinfectant chlorine was added, and nor did it document what levels were acceptable. Unsurprisingly, it was revealed that 3 days prior to the child visiting, the quality of the water was not tested in late August and early September. What they discovered was that while the first 2 days showed normal levels of chlorination, on the day after the child's last visit, the chlorination levels had fallen below the minimum requirement. Even though this chlorine discrepancy presents itself as an issue, according to the CDC, chlorinating water in itself does not necessarily kill all germs instantly. Many germs exist that are resistant to chlorine, so the presence of fatal amoeba is a possibility even in public spaces that have been chlorinated. Nonetheless, the lack of maintenance was a visible issue in this case, and even prompted the child's family to sue the city for negligence for $1 million in damages. The tragic incident caused water parks all over town to close down so the record gaps could be filled. While all the cases discussed were equally tragic, the water park one stood out to me because it shows that this fatal amoeba can appear even in the most safest of areas. Furthermore, it shows us that not everything can be trusted. It's one thing to get sick, but a totally different thing to face a life or death situation just for going somewhere in your city's recreational area. If anything comes out of this, hopefully it brings in more awareness for not just the visitors, but also the managers, officials, and employees who are in charge of maintaining the safety and health of these public and easily accessible places. On the other hand, it is important to note that when this infection is described as rare, it really is, with only 145 reported cases in 60 years here in the United States. While this video is not meant to put anyone off from enjoying a nice swim, it does serve the purpose of educating ourselves to prevent something as disturbing as this from happening. I mean, as gross as lice are, they can't even begin to compare with the gruesome feeling of organisms visibly moving underneath your skin. It is recommended that individuals should avoid swimming in freshwater regions, especially in warm months. The type of water that are deemed safer involve environments that are salty and chlorinated, as the parasite would be less likely to survive there. One should also be mindful in not submerging their entire heads, especially the nasal area, into fresh water. And if one must, they should use nose clips to prevent any of the contaminated water from entering. If contact has been made, then the nasal passages should be immediately rinsed out with distilled or purified bottled water. Hope you guys found this video educational, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content.